NFL Inside Blitz Week 8. Here with Ron, here with Ted from Sports USA Live. How's your week been, Ted? We haven't seen you since last Friday.
Yeah, well, that's a typical week for us. It's been good, and we had a great weekend last Sunday. It's really weird that we're almost halfway through the season already.
Yeah, that sucks.
Time waits for no one, does it? As we age by the second here. We got a Sports USA doubleheader coming up: Atlanta at Tennessee, and Cincinnati at San Francisco. So those are our matchups this week, and it's a lot better than next week. We'll talk about that a little later. I don't know where that came from, but anyway, Tennessee's off their bye. You know, they've been on vacation since London, and a loss too. So they've had a long time to think about what they're going to do this week. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on where you're coming from, they won't have their starting quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, high ankle sprain, listed as out today. So it's going to be a combination of Will Levis and Malik Willis. Say that fast 100 times together. And I want to know from Ron his thoughts on Will Levis coming in this season and what his expectations were as a rookie quarterback.
Will Levis and Malik Willis both share one thing in common. They like to get sacked, and that's probably not a good thing. Will Levis in his last year at Kentucky sacked 46 times in 11 games. He missed 2 of the games. His completion percentage is NFL worthy. I think he's going to ascend to be perhaps a decent starter in the NFL, but his internal clock would be off as a rookie. He's going to have to be fed some short stuff. We know the coach of Tennessee is more of a defensive guy. He prefers games that are very low scoring. What's their average scores? 19 point offense, 19-point defense. So this offense is not going to do a lot with Will Levis at quarterback.
And Will Levis is jealous of the amount of sacks that Sam Howell has had. So that looks pretty good next to that, right? By the way, we've seen Malik Willis over the last year or so, and it hasn't looked good. Talk about internal clocks, not just getting sacked, but he looks like he doesn't belong out there. Now, I don't know how much of that was he was just thrown in the fire and, timing was really bad, but he looked like this was out of his league.
Yeah. Oh, I agree completely. Willis, he was sacked over 50 times at Liberty in his last year. As soon as the first read is gone, he's going to take off running. And he's a dynamic runner. I did mention that against Atlanta. If you put in Willis for the whole game, my guess is that he would rush for 70 yards or more. He may only pass for 70 yards as well, because we did see him last year, Ted, and they really restricted the offense. They passed fewer than 20 times with him, and we may see that again. They may run Henry until he's burnt to the ground and then trade him next week before the trading deadline. I mean, this game, Tennessee wants to shorten this game.
Yeah, and I just don't know why you would start Willis from what you've seen. You got to play Will. I understand Will Levis is going to probably start, and then whatever happens within the game, maybe you bring in Willis for little plays here and there. But otherwise, it should be Will Levis's game. It's like, okay, you show us what you got.
The coaching staff knows best because they've seen him all summer and all fall. They know if he's ready or not. If he's not playing, there's a reason.
Yep, no doubt.
I'm sorry for being out here. I'm having all these technical problems. So
that never happens.
Hilarious.
I have a suggestion then. I know a guy who's associated with the University of Michigan who can help you with some recording stuff.
Oh, that's some good thinking. I did tweet out a funny video because it was a serious 15-minute discussion about the charges against the Michigan program. And he's talking about it all. And then in the middle of it, he starts talking about, one of our sideline partners is such and such ticket brokers. And if you need tickets on both sidelines, they're the ones to help with. I thought that was hilarious.
No stealing signals here. We know what we're going to get from Tennessee, and we know what we're going to get from Atlanta.
We have a few comments, right? Ritter and Levis. Were we just talking about Levis? What did he have to say?
Yeah, let's hear from Will Levis and his thoughts on likely playing his first game.
A good, solid team. We have a good idea of what they've shown so far, but also an idea of maybe some things that they haven't shown that we might have to be ready for. So that's the name of the game. Not sticking 100% to the script and not being thrown off when things go awry. We're preparing our tails off. It's nice to have an extra week of preparation with the bye week, so that helps. But it's a good defense, a good team. I know we got some ties, with their staff and stuff. So we've kept the conversations with them, at least the guys that know, Art and them, to a minimum this week. So, but excited to go out there and play a good game of ball. They're a good, solid team.
There's something about the bye week, the timing of this. They couldn't ask for better as far as bringing in a new guy, right? And coming off the London loss, they've had a lot to think about. But it's going to be a weird matchup this week. Atlanta's on a high. They're in first place, the only team in the South with a winning record, and yet they're the only first place team in the league with a minus point differential. I think that tells you a little bit about their division. What can I say? As for Desmond Ritter, this guy, we talked about him last week because we had him on Sports USA. He is not playing clean. I'm trying to be nice by saying that, right? 3 picks 2 weeks ago, 3 lost fumbles last week. You can't do that anymore. He has got to learn. What are your thoughts on that, Ron? Did he have a history of this going back to his university days?
At Cincinnati, no, he didn't have that. He was a pretty smart quarterback at Cincinnati. Great winning record. Reminds me of, I may have said this before, kind of reminds me of Andy Dalton in terms of the way he manages the game. Lacks the overall consistency of Andy Dalton in terms of what Andy became. And I really liked Andy Dalton as a quarterback. But Ritter has some of those same characteristics. He drove the team inside the 20 3 times without points. Fumble at the 11, fumble at the 11, fumble at the half-yard line. So he got them there, but like you said, they weren't careful. They have a -7 turnover ratio on the year. And the Atlanta offensive line, which is a little bit better than average, has allowed 20 sacks. And some of that has to be on Ritter.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's hear from him talking about needing to play cleaner.
First and main thing is protecting the football. Like I talked about after the game, whether it's picking it up or running it, no matter who has the ball is the issue. So I had to do a better job, obviously, taking care of that, too. And then when we get down there, it's just been, whether it's penalties, whatever it may be, just shooting ourselves in the foot in the red zone. We're doing a great job of getting down there and getting in that red zone, but, we're not being able to put points on the board. And so that's one thing, you look back on that, pay attention to the details. Details in the small thing is what we're working on. And, that'll help lead to our finish and execution in the red zone. The first
the one thing about Atlanta that is really interesting, we're talking about them being the most average at best first place team you could ever imagine right now. And if they win this game, and they are favored to win this game, their next 2 are against Minnesota and Arizona. So they could be 7-3 and looking a heck of a lot better. What are you wearing there?
I was said no hat, and you talked Minnesota, so I got out a Minnesota hat.
Not that Minnesota.
College hat.
That's the wrong Minnesota.
Here's the hat.
Get your purple people eaters hat out. That's the wrong.
Just happen to have it handy.
Anyway, so Atlanta could be 7-3 in a few weeks if things go their way, and all of a sudden we're saying, hey, maybe they're not so bad, but it's still a weird season so far in that NFC South.
What do you got, Cris?
I like the way that he so liberally used the word, we have the problem, or down in the red zone. It's our problem. That's your problem. Hold on to the ball.
Yeah, especially that one where he dropped it going into the end zone. I joked that while he was running, I was on my intercom with my producer, and I said, he's not going to lose the ball now, is he? And then there goes the ball. And I thought, nah, that couldn't be before he was past the pile out. It was there. Unbelievable timing on that.
So in this game, you have Atlanta who wants to run the ball against Tennessee, who does a fantastic job of stopping the run. So Tennessee doesn't have a great pass defense. They allow a lot of completions. The question is, what kind of game plan do you think we're going to see out of Atlanta to compensate for the opponent that they're facing?
Well, I think they're going to use Bijan Robinson more than last week because he got one touch. So I think that's a huge difference in this game. And Bijan also said he had a migraine headache, and which is why they didn't play him hardly at all in the game. So he says he's feeling great. Listen to his entire interview, and he should be back to normal. And I would expect, you said you don't mind them bringing him in slowly. Well, it's week 8. This is not slowly anymore. It's time to use him. He's a little bit of everything, and I think he could really cause some havoc for the Tennessee D. And as for the Titans, I think Mike Vrabel, they've already traded away Kevin Byard, and they're looking at maybe a few more deals. They're trying not to be too obvious, it sounds like to me, on how much cleaning house they want to do here at the trade deadline. Is Derrick Henry out of there? Who knows? I would say if it's ever going to happen, this is the time to do it.
This total's been skating down all morning. It's down to a flat 35 in some places. That's quite a move.
Yeah, I think I set it personally at 35.5 to start. So it's the pace of play that these guys want to do. It's what they want to do at the line. In the red zone, we know that Atlanta's going to try to be more careful. We know Tennessee is going to be more careful because they have no experience at quarterback in order to operate into the red zone. So if you want a field goal prop, maybe you go over on field goals. I'm just making it up on the fly, but of course, they have to get that far. They have to move the chains to even get that far, but you might want to look field goals.
Is there any movement on just on the straight line at all? Not that Ryan Tannehill's worth that much, but it goes from a veteran to no experience, and that could affect the line, don't you think, a little?
Well, there are some threes out there, some weak threes, but it's mostly 2.5s. I found value in the game when it was on the money line, when it was closer to pick. I think when I certainly wouldn't be laying 3 with Atlanta, and even 2.5's a tough pill to swallow, but I'd probably lean that way. I don't have any opinion on the total. What about you guys?
Okay, well, if I had a hat that wasn't a college hat, but it said Las Vegas Cris on it, I'm putting on my Las Vegas Cris hat now, because I went for a kind of, and I've said this during the week, kind of manipulative in terms of putting together the line. Just like Cris said, I wasn't comfortable with laying any points with Atlanta. I'm not even comfortable with the bet I made, but because early in the week I was happy with Cincinnati, even before, and it's a game we're going to talk about anyway, but I put Atlanta to Cincinnati +7, because I moved the line, Atlanta even, and the odds were +184. That's the way I'm handling Atlanta. I'm not even thrilled about Atlanta. You asked what Tannehill might be worth. It depends on the opponent. So you're right, maybe 2.5, 3 points in this game. But again, other opponents, I think the loss of Tannehill might be worth 5, 6, 7 points when you're playing a team that's built more to pass on them and can do some stuff against them. Because Atlanta's not a great team at rushing the quarterbacks, although we saw them get a lot of sacks against Washington, because everybody gets a lot of sacks against Washington. So you have to weigh that. That's what I weigh in the equation.
Yeah, by the way, we didn't mention the fact that Atlanta stinks on the road, too. And Desmond Ridder, his last win was his first road win as a pro. So I think he's 1-5 on the road as a starter now.
So he's due for positive regression. I like your frame of thinking there.
He's due, yes.
So the next game is a little bit more interesting. The Bengals at the 49ers. There's a lot of storylines with this game.
Yep.
How do you see this game shaping out, Ted?
Well, look, it's all about the quarterback as far as San Francisco is concerned. It's nice to know Joe Burrow says he is absolutely healthy again with his leg injury. He said he didn't even need the bye, yet they got it for his leg. So that's a really positive thing for him. But Brock Purdy is in concussion protocol, limited practice. No other guy all season long has been put into concussion protocol and played the same week. So it's unlikely he's going to go, which means Sam Darnold is in the spotlight, boys, and we haven't seen him do anything for a while. I don't have a major problem with him. If he doesn't turn the ball over, he's fine, but that's always the question mark with him, just forcing a play here or there that just kills his team. I love the matchup at this time of the year. I think it's going to say a lot about both teams. The Niners coming off of 2 strange losses, and the Bengals starting to look better, but they still don't look Super Bowl better yet. So I'm wondering what team is going to show up on the road here.
Yeah, so on Tuesday, Cris and I talked about this, and I think we have a little bit of a difference of opinion as to how we might value Cincinnati moving forward. I'm a little bit more aggressive, not overly aggressive because of what you said, Ted, but a little bit more aggressive in that we have to discount some of what Burrow did weeks 1, 2, and 3, because at most he was probably 25-30%. I suspect if he needs to run, he could run now. He could pass on the 49ers secondary. I'm cutting them some slack. I like their pass defense. I know their defense isn't completely trustworthy quite yet, but it was a good time for a bye. And one other point I would make is San Francisco at the beginning of the year, when we did the schedule analysis, when I did that in May, minus 24 rest differential. We've seen that play out. We've got it here again. We had it with Minnesota. We have it here again. Cincinnati, 14 days, and a wounded San Francisco team. 2 linebackers wounded. We don't know about Deebo Samuel. We might get that information.
No, Deebo's out.
He's out.
He's out.
No, so he's out 2 weeks for sure.
That's a major difference because he's so he brings an extra creativity portion. Now, what about the left tackle, Trent Williams? Is he in?
I haven't heard. Have you heard anything, Cris?
I have not.
Okay.
So we've got a wounded team right now with 6 days rest, 5.5, versus a rested team with 14 days.
What do you think of the pass rush of Cincinnati in this game? How they can affect what's going on with Mr. Darnold?
I don't know if they get to Darnold, and that could be a problem for Darnold because Darnold sometimes tries to do too much. The difference between Purdy and Darnold may be insignificant, except for one thing you said, and that's turnovers. I know Purdy had a couple of late turnovers, but it's not his DNA to do that. And maybe some of that was concussion related after the fact, where, like with Tua last year.
Well, he turned it over the previous game too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the book is out on him. Maybe he's has 3rd round value instead of 7th round value, but he's not going to be Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. Darnold has the ability to make any throw on the field. The problem is Darnold has the ability to make any throw on the field.
He thinks he's Brett Favre too much.
Yeah. In the San Francisco system, if he can play within the system, that's probably not going to be a drop. My play on Cincy was based more on what Cincy brings to the table from now compared to what they were, and the loss of Deebo and some linebacker and pass defense concerns on San Francisco.
So you think that Bengals defense will carry them this week?
Unless McCaffrey is right now he would still be my vote for MVP because of what he does for the team. He's a running back that carries his weight more than any other running back because you get him in space, you run him on the line. I wouldn't put it past McCaffrey to carry the 49ers, but short of that, I think Cincinnati's defense can be okay.
Unfortunately for the Niners, it was McCaffrey's fumble that hurt their cause, and he blamed himself for their last loss. And let's hear from him, Cris.
Okay, I'm sitting here
Christian McCaffrey.
Not prepared. McCaffrey, right? Here we go.
There you go.
Got all the right guys. We just have to play well. And that's, I don't even want to speak for anyone else. I'll just speak for myself. I can't put the ball on the ground. I have to do better than that. Still, you just have to let the anger fuel you in the right ways and, come out and just be obsessed with executing and just doing your job. We got the right guys for that mentality. This isn't a team that's going to start folding or anything like that. Like I said, we just have to play better on the game day. We got all the right guys.
He is one intense human.
I was just going to say, boy, I like the way he's talking.
I want that guy on my team. I want 10 guys like that on my team, but there aren't 10 guys in the world like that who could play like him.
Do you have a soundbite? You probably don't, on Joey Bosa.
No.
Because he said that the holdout affected him. It affected his conditioning. There was something going on, and he was sort of on a pitch count in that last game against Minnesota. The announcers made a great deal of the fact that when he was out, they had a special package when Bosa was out. The Manning cast said that too. Peyton Manning and Eli Manning said that when they noticed that Bosa was out, they went downfield more with their throws. And I thought that was an interesting bit of insight. So Bosa needs to get up to speed. I was surprised he was out so many plays.
Right. Well, again, the best news for Cincinnati is that Joe Burrow is healthy again. And Cris, he talked about his health affecting what they can do in the red zone.
That's really third down and red zone in a nutshell. You can scheme up plays all you want. But defenses are really good and know how to take away what you're trying to do. And so when your back's against the wall in those kind of situations, you got to be able to extend and make plays. And that's, I've been able to do a little bit of that the last couple of weeks. Before that, not really. So I'm excited to get back to doing that, making plays outside the pocket, running for first downs. That's how I like to play, and that's how we're going to play going forward. That's really
that's exactly what I said before. He has talked about his health is not an issue at all now. So hopefully it stays that way moving forward. We're going to find out who the real Cincinnati Bengals are.
Yeah, I don't think his health was a problem in the last game.
No,
and they didn't fare well. If you take out the 2 quarters, the second half stats from the Arizona game, his stats are pretty dismal, quite frankly, for the rest of the quarters that they played this season. So they've only made it to the red zone 13 times in how many games have they played? 7?
6.
6.
Yeah, they're 3-3.
That's pretty anemic. And so those are my concerns with Cincinnati. At some point you are what you are, and certainly have to keep, be open-minded that they can come out strong like they have in the last 2 years in the second half of the season. Yeah. But so far, they've demonstrated far more problems with the team than they've had over the last couple of years. Defensively, they don't rate very high at all. They've got problems on defense. Actually, they've kind of improved. They are up a little bit higher. So they're up to Midland, so they're getting better. But Seattle, shot themselves in the foot, ran all over them last week or last time they played when Burrow was healthy. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. The market obviously sides with San Francisco that a second string quarterback is still worth more than a field goal.
Yeah, I still have my question marks about the O-line for the Bengals. I think it's still, even though it's better than it was a couple of years ago when it was absolutely the worst O-line in the history of the Super Bowl, and it wasn't even close. How they got there is just a miracle, and that was how great Burrow was. Now, it's better, but I don't know how good it is. And how much do you think that is a factor here, Ron, this season?
Yeah. Again, I just have to go back to what Burrow can do in this game, because Chris's point about the offense was what's Burrow doing so far? How healthy is he? Well, he didn't run in the last game, but he's not stretching the field. This is very un-Burrow-like when you're talking about 147 completions for 1,200 yards and change. So he's not stretching the field. This is the game we need to find that out. He's faced pass rushes galore over his whole career. I'm not as worried about that. What I'm worried about is his confidence to plant and drive the ball downfield. And that's what I think we will see in this particular game. And if we don't, then it's going to be Cris that's more right than I am in terms of, where Cincinnati is right now. Do I think they're a playoff team? I actually do think that they would qualify for the 6th or 7th spot based on their trajectory. But if you tell me Lamar Jackson's going to be healthy for 17 games, Baltimore beat Cincinnati by 3 games in the standings.
Well, I guess Ron likes the +6, the plus anything on Cincinnati, and I lean San Francisco money line. So we'll hopefully we can both cash.
What's the latest number on the straights?
3.5 or 4 at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, it went down as soon as the news came out about Purdy. And again, Purdy and Darnold, not that different, but the Deebo Samuel thing is a big deal.
All right.
Bertie brought up, he wants to talk some Raiders Lions.
Who doesn't?
He mentioned that they're walking wounded. Basically, they're not in that bad a shape. Montgomery's out. He's not going to play this week. They're going to get him rested for the bye. They've been in far worse shape last season and earlier this season. So they need to get Jameson in, being productive. They threw the ball to him 5 times, and he's either dropping them or missing them. And he's getting kind of ridiculed for that. But Campbell came out strong, took the blame for last week, and all but guaranteed that they're going to get maximum effort out of the team on Monday. And quite frankly, I don't see it any other way. That stadium's going to be fired up. And off that embarrassing loss, I think that you're going to see that team show up. And the Raiders, I don't think can really, stay with them, even with Garoppolo. So that's the way I see the game.
Well, the last time you said that stadium was going to be fired up, they lost. So I don't know.
Which one? When?
I don't know. Earlier. What was their loss? Their other loss?
The other loss was Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the game.
Well, there's a lot of things that went against them too. So.
Oh, okay.
I mean, a coin flip decided the game.
You can't get caught up in one loss. I don't care what time of the year it is. But that was ugly. And I watched some of that game as much as I could because I'm watching a bunch of other ones at the same time. And I just saw nothing that showed me that they could compete with Baltimore in that game. And that's what concerned me a little bit. They looked like they were out physical throughout.
Well, Jackson's 16-1 against NFC teams because they never get to see him. And the Lions do admittedly have a weakness with running quarterbacks. So the matchup didn't work. The situation wasn't working. It was everything coming together, on that front. And Jackson's playing at MVP pace. And if, as Ryan alluded to, if he stays healthy, I believe that they're the best team in the AFC. I mean, I don't think anybody can beat them. If that team stays healthy the way they are now, who's going to beat them?
Well, that was my pick week 1 when you guys asked me who I thought was going to the Super Bowl. And Ron said, well, it can't happen in that division. They're going to beat the hell out of each other. And I agree with all of that. But I think over the long haul, if he stays healthy, for not just him, it's the Ravens. They're never healthy.
You're right.
So, I'll talk to you in 9 weeks. That's a long way off.
Detroit's loss by as many points as they had against Baltimore sets them up in a favorable situation that tends to work in the NFL, especially in standalone games. And we have them on national TV, obviously, on Monday night. I talked to Matt Landis about this last night because I was on his halftime show. And, he asked me about teaser possibilities, and I'm not a teaser guy, but I think for Matt's sake, I probably need to find something with the Lions because I really give them a 90 to 95% chance of winning this game because this opponent is in disarray, like it was said in the chat. The Raiders have holes all over the defense. They have Max Crosby, who's an incredible player. They probably get Jimmy G back. They have Jacobs, who's probably going to run into a brick wall against Detroit. It's, their play calling has been all over the place. It would be really telling if Detroit lost this game straight up, and it's hard to envision that scenario happening.
Well, if it was a normal organization, I would say that Josh McDaniel would be one of the likely favorites to get fired first this year. But that's not the way they work. So I don't, I just think he's in over his head as a head coach. I thought maybe he would evolve, that, you know, as a person he has, but it looks like the same old crap to me.
Well, speaking of possible firings, what happens if the Chargers lay a turd sandwich this week?
Doesn't matter. They're not going to pay for a coach that doesn't coach. I don't think so. He should have been fired 2 years ago. They gave him an extension because he did such a stupid job. Yeah, we'll give you a few more years. I mean, come on.
You know, you were speaking of the Raiders. You know, the Bears embarrassed the Raiders 30-12 last week.
Exactly.
You know, with a guy who came from Shepherd University. So
he should have been fired last week at halftime.
Yeah. You know, the what is it? The sum of the parts of the LA Chargers don't equal the whole. This is a team that has a playoff roster that can't seem to get into the playoffs except for once every 5 or 6 years.
And when they get there, they embarrass themselves anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I don't understand how this line is where it is. It's funny because there's people that think that the Bears pose little or no threat whatsoever in this game. And there's a faction of sharp people that also wonder how the hell this line is over a touchdown. Where do you guys sit on the fence on this?
Well, the Chargers play close games, it seems like, no matter what. So that's part of the problem. I mean, are they even capable of doing what they need to do? They're incredibly inconsistent. And, you know, ever since they lost Mike Williams, they've got all the excuses in the world now that they don't have their true go-to guy when they absolutely need him. So it figures a lot of games are just going to be close. If they're over a touchdown favorite against almost anybody, the Bears have an ounce of confidence coming in now. They've won 2 of their last 3 after the 0-4 start. So they're feeling at least something positive about themselves. And they're going in where it's probably going to be 50% Chicago Bears uniforms in the stands. So, you know, whatever. Yeah. I mean, who knows?
Well, the Bears present almost no pass rush. You know, so Justin Herbert's going to have it potentially, if the play calling works and everything else, a field day in terms of looking for receivers. So I think they can put up points. But I just revisited my power numbers on this game, and I use home field advantage between. Well, actually, for a Sunday night game, I give more home field advantage, but this is a Chargers, and it's hard to give a lot of home field advantage for that. If I gave them a full 1.5, which would be tough, I still only get to 6.5 because I have this game 5 on neutral ground. So,
I don't know anybody that uses a metric system that has, has a 7 on this game. So, the one angle that I do like on this game is the over. I just think, as you mentioned, Ron, Herbert's going to be in a position of really no excuses in this game. He's going to have time to throw, and the Bears are certainly improved over how they started. They're a little bit healthier, but he should be able to complete passes, move the ball. They're supposed to score. And we've seen that the Chargers actually have been a turnstile themselves on defense. So I just feel like, primetime game, everybody's amped up a little bit. I'm positive that the Chargers would love to just put a beat down on anybody with their frustrations.
Yeah, but are they capable?
Well, but if they do get the chance, I believe that they will run it up with glee. And I just think the Bears have enough tools to put some points on the board also and keep it reasonably close. So those are my looks on the game.
Okay, Ron, if the Chargers lose this game, a huge if they lose this game, what do you think happens?
They don't make the playoffs?
I don't think they make the playoffs anyway. They're already 2-4.
No, I mean, you'll have internal concerns and stuff like that. Cris, I agree with you in terms of what Chicago is capable of, especially with Justin Fields. But the rookie quarterback, I mean a raw rookie quarterback, completed 21 passes against Vegas for 162 yards. So his playbook stuff is not. It's going to take broken coverage, which is possible with the Chargers, but I do believe that it's a simplified playbook for him. That's the only concern.
And I think the strongest part of the home field advantage for the Chargers is halftime. They know where the urinals are, and nobody else does. So that's their home field. That's their home field advantage.
You have to walk a long way in that stadium to get there.
Yes, but at least you know where you're going.
Yeah.
What other games stand out to you guys besides talking about maybe a little bit of trade thoughts on Halloween?
Yeah. Well, so there were about 3 teams that I thought look like they're going to be selling. Tennessee has already sold their top, their leader on defense and certainly the leader of the secondary. We're hearing all kinds of stuff regarding Denver.
Right.
They're going to trade this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy. And the deadline is Tuesday during the show for Cris and I. So we may be live betting as we have a couple of times in the past because we see a team is in give up mode or conversely, a team's in buying mode. The Rams for years were in buying mode. I don't know if that's going to be true this year because they're kind of a fringe playoff team right now. I guess they would consider, why shouldn't they consider themselves part of the mix? Any other teams that you guys think are selling besides Denver and besides Tennessee?
Well, maybe Carolina, I mean, they're 0-6. So, and they need to regroup whatever the hell it takes. So maybe they'll be looking for a few added nice draft situations for next year. But I don't think any players are going to do anything. But it's maybe unload a few salaries.
Yeah, Carolina, I agree. That's a good point because they traded a lot to get their first round quarterback.
Right, exactly.
I don't think the Rams will be buyers. They don't. What do they have to give anyway? I don't think they have much hope, frankly. But does a team like Buffalo needs some help? You'd think Buffalo would be in the market. Any of the teams in the AFC North are in the buyer's market, I would have to think.
Well, I think one team that stands out to me as a definite buyer is Dallas, but I don't know what position they're in to get somebody that they want. But it doesn't matter because their owner is their GM and he thinks he's God, and that's all that matters.
I think the Lions do need some defensive help. If somebody becomes available, they may hop in.
Arizona could be a seller because they're building for the future. That would be another seller for me.
Would anybody actually pick up Kyler Murray's contract? Would he be part of the equation?
I think Kyler Murray will be on the trading block after the season if Arizona's season goes as it's going right now and they would have access to a quarterback. Why not now?
Yeah. They're not going anywhere.
Because you don't know if you're going to get one of the top quarterbacks yet. You don't know what your final record is going to be. And the team is trying hard. Make no mistake about it. They just generally run out of gas because it's not a great roster right now.
Exactly. But they're at 1-6. I mean, they're going to be right there if they don't get the first pick, they're going to get the first couple of picks.
Yeah, but if you're the coach, GM, or the players, you can't have that mindset.
I know.
You have to have the mindset that you've been competing and you have been competing every single game.
Let's switch to something topical. Also here, Trevor Lawrence shows up as questionable on the injury report, and we're starting to see some Pittsburgh money come in. That was already a doozy of a game, and now they're going to throw this monkey wrench at us. How do you guys process that?
I know he's going to be wearing a brace for sure in the game, and that's all I see to it. He played really well. He was mobile. He had probably his best long run of the year with a knee brace on. So I'm not concerned at all. I mean, unless he tweaked it and more than we thought, he's probably going to be listed as questionable, but I don't think it matters.
10 days. He's had 10 days. And when somebody shows up this way, questionable on the report, I put no stock in it at all.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it doesn't really concern me. So unless something happened in practice we're unaware of, we've got the same old. This is like the trilogy of games where Pittsburgh comes in, they're the underdog. The metrics say they don't belong, and are we going to see another repeat where Pittsburgh surprises the favorite team? They do it with smoke and mirrors, the voodoo magic.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's a weird team. We never know which team's going to show up, but they keep finding ways to win. I guess that's all that matters. I think they've won something like, is it 10 of the – wait a minute, I've got it here. They won 8 of their last 10. And you almost feel like they could have lost 3 or 4 of those easily, but they won, so that's all that matters. It's sort of the same with the Jacksonville, not necessarily how they win, but they're finding ways to win, and that's a really positive sign for a team that's spiraling up. They've won 10 of their last 12, and that's outstanding after the Urban Meyer debacle ended.
I'm not surprised Pittsburgh's a short dog because obviously the power ratings support that, but it is surprising whenever Pittsburgh is a home dog. But situationally, actually, Jacksonville has a couple of advantages in this particular game. It's a hard game for me to play because every time, TJ Watt is on the field, he might be worth more points than anybody, the way the splits are in terms of their wins and losses. I think it's a fascinating game. Stay away game for me, but a fascinating game.
And the Jags have been a really good road team, too, which is even more impressive.
Yeah, they bonded. That's nice, like what you said, in terms of how they're finding ways to win.
Yeah. How about the Battle of Jersey? Jets and Giants, Tyrod Taylor back in there again. It's starting for the Gents.
What do you got, Cris?
Well, I got Daniel Jones is out.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure New York can pull this victory out. That's
New York. Well, they're both New York, so there's going to be a New York winner for sure.
I think it's a New Jersey winner.
This is just a comical week across the board of small road favorites that are all difficult to bet on the road, and it just really odd how it's mapped out this week. And this is another one of those teams. But as we've determined, the Meadowlands has a locker room for the Jets, a locker room for the Giants, and a locker room for the visitors. So we answered that question that they don't have to change locker rooms. So
right.
They will have the home comfort. So I think that actually makes a little bit of a difference.
I think this is a important game for Brian Daboll because we've talked about him being one of the most disappointing coaching jobs of the year and how his team has not looked good in so many ways. And here they're coming off a stunning win, and they get to be at home as the home team. Maybe not 100% healthy, but healthy enough to get the job done. And I want to see what this team does. Can they just go against the team that the Jets they're not great, but they got a lot of individual players, but they find ways to lose. So it's going to be an interesting game. I want to see how they respond to him.
The over-under tells you how ugly this game is going to be. So which team makes the fewest mistakes, which team, what happens if there's a sack, strip fumble of Tyrod Taylor or one of those things, or if Wilson on the other side throws an errant pass. It's just going to be an ugly game. It's clearly a stay away game for me.
Yeah, that total is down to 35.5 also. That's the interesting thing with these lower totals is you can actually start to bring in teasers into the discussion. So that'll segue to another topic I wanted to talk about. Didn't you have an issue you were going to talk about, Ron, on your preparation for this week?
No, I think that's all we had, other than a college football story.
I've been mentioning my focus has been changing. Just the unreal variance. Last year and this year have just been something else, and it's been a priority for me to stretch things out and to just get whatever extra points or fewer points that I can get. And so I've been changing my focus. As you guys know, I've been doing the 2-team teasers, and it hadn't really dawned on me until I was reading up on parlays. And it reminded me that I really needed to look at the 3 and the 4-team teasers. And for example, the math on a 2-team parlay at minus 282 is minus 120. So if you're paying, less than minus 120 on a teaser, then you're getting value in that respect. When you have a 3-team teaser parlayed together, that's the equivalent of plus 149. It's very easy to get plus 150. It's very common to have plus 160, and 170s and 180s are available. I have a plus 170 available. So you're getting extra value if you are using it in a 3-team capacity. You're gonna win fewer times, but you get that plus 160, which is really nice. And if you're able to get that, you can use that in various ways. When you look at the 4-team teaser, that comes out to plus 237, and it's DraftKings pays plus 260. So if on a week like this, where it's like 13 possible games, 13 of these games can be teased with good teasers. It's something to consider, to basically round robin by 3, and maybe even by 4, and layer it by time, where you can make some adjustments and do some possible hedging or resetting, so to speak. You can take an early game, you can take a late afternoon game, you can take the night game, and you can take the Monday night game. And there's just a lot of interesting possibilities under these circumstances.
My thoughts are, again, it's kind of an intermediate topic, not a beginner topic. You have to go in with 2 feet here, and if you're uninitiated to how to use teases and picking teams that you wouldn't normally pick and stuff like that, you can get yourself in a little trouble. Last week, I really thought was going to be a big underdog week, and I just wanted most of my portfolio is going to be straight plays anyway. I understand those concepts, but I look straight ahead in terms of what my methodology is, and I don't want to lose focus. Other people have different angles and ways of hedging money and layering and so on. And of course, I understand your approach, Cris, but again, it's an intermediate topic. And I think any intermediate topic requires you to understand the foundation of sports betting to begin with. So I think you have to get your feet wet with straight betting. This is personal opinion, before you go off on anything else. Now, it may lead to more profits by doing exactly what you're talking about, Cris, but you have to have that foundation first.
Yeah, to be clear, I agree with what you just said 100%. It's not something to be carefree about. And it's the key, which I did not mention, is you absolutely have to be making sure that you're getting over the key numbers and you're using them in the proper way. And you like I said, if you go above 2 teams, that means you're going to win fewer times. So there's give and take for that, for those extra pays, and be careful on that. I just wanted to kind of bring it up as just something to kind of have in the back of your head.
Especially as teaser prices get out of range for 2-team teases. What did I hear? Most places in Vegas are now 130 for 2 teams.
Well, but see, that's my point, is that the 3 and the 4 team teasers are better than the minus 120s that people can no longer find in some areas. Wow. So this is an alternative. It's it has more volatility, but it is actually a better positive EV than laying minus 120 on 2-team teasers. And if you can't find the minus 120s, well, those same places sometimes have the right pays on the 3 and the 4. And the other thing to remember, you may not know this, is take a look at a college game that you might like. Let's say you like Auburn tomorrow. They're laying 6.5. If you're going to bet Auburn anyway, why not just lead that with a 6-point teaser and go into the NFL, into what you want to do in the NFL? If you marry a college team, a lot of these places are going to charge you lower juice. So you may get minus 110 juice on a college with an NFL 2-teamer. There's a notable sports book that has really crappy 2-team NFL prices. But when I threw in a college, they paid plus 150 on a 3-team, 1 college, 2 NFL, and they paid the 150 on a 3-teamer. So there are creative ways to look around and find value.
Yeah, I'm wondering, when did you guys know this? The book started to jack up the rates on the teasers to their advantage even more, because Ron and I, in the old days when he never touched them, but I did a lot of teasers, we said this was going to happen eventually. They're going to take as much of that value away as soon as they figure it out. And I guess they're doing that now.
It got really popular with the pros. I think
last year.
And Cris, no, I mean over time. Oh. And I don't know if Cris will agree with me or he knows or whatever, but I really think the pros weren't as interested in teases once it got off the even money 6-pointers and so on. And then they developed these strategies. I know long strategy was always there, but we've seen so much more money poured into props and teasers as opposed to straight bets. And in-game betting, the landscape of how you bet a game has changed. It's changed from here to the moon or whatever. And I think that's what caused Vegas, for example, to say, hey, we want more of the big. We want more of the piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, but when did they start doing that more as far as the teasers are concerned? Is like the last year or two or more?
I'd say it's probably been 4 or 5 years that we're seeing more heavy involvement in teases, but only the last 1-2 years in props that we've really started to see this, with DraftKings and FanDuel putting out that stuff so early.
Right.
Well, the whole shape of the market has changed in recent years with the additional legality, and the market moves harder and sharper and faster. So you have to look for creative ways to get into some of the games, especially if you've missed lines that you really wanted. And if you're talented and you know where a market's going to move, well, now your teaser, like the Seattle New York Giants when Monday night game. At one point the Giants were favored by 1.5, and you were able to get your teasers at 7.5, and then it flipped all the way to the 2.5 the other way. And every week there are games, the line is going to move. So that 6-point teaser really becomes 7.5 sometimes. So those are other considerations. But it's getting harder and harder to beat the straight line because it's so efficient, moves so fast, and it's just options.
You know exactly what happened with the Cincinnati-San Francisco game when the news came out while you were taping your show. And at that particular point, you have to be fast to get the last remaining 5.5s that had already dropped from 6. But the alternative lines were still there. You could still get second quarter, first half, second half lines at prices that were not going to be there once the market reset itself, but was absolutely there during the time. I hate the fact that you have to get a little bit more creative in terms to find different things than just going through in the old approach of taking your notes, taking your metrics, and just going straight. But like Cris said, the market is moving not only faster, but it's also moving at weird times.
Yes, it's and it just morphing in odd ways, and you have you have media personalities or services or whatnot, Telegram channels that are able to move these lines also. And, that's a whole nother story. I mean, at some point, you have to realize that the people that are able to move lines are able to make a hell of a lot more money actually getting the sheep to move the lines for them, because they take their positions before it moves and then they work with where the sheep moved the line, and that's where they get their maximum value. So it's really interesting what's going on in this whole climate at this point.
I'm fascinated that Ron has evolved from forget the sheep doing anything. How about the old days, Ron? We didn't have to have anybody move the line. We just wanted the game to start because we could still get the same number after somebody scored. Nobody knew it yet.
Yeah. They would take the game off 5 minutes after. If you had a kickoff return for a touchdown, you got a free first quarter bet out of it.
Exactly.
Sometimes. It was crazy.
Do you have one memorable story from that real quick that like really stands out? One of those early, hey, we just got a free touchdown. You got to take it. Value.
No, you
baby.
just keep the screen up and you do it. Now, of course, there's live in-game betting, so they're changing every play and stuff like that. And that's such a dangerous thing. But
then it was like nobody else could touch it. It was like, hey, we got in somehow.
Yeah, that's an old day story.
I know.
Ron, we had a very funny occurrence happen yesterday. Would you care to weave that tale?
Well, this is kind of one in a million, but other than the Tuesday show, Cris and I checked back and we were checking back on the college. What do you like? What are your leans? What's this and this? And we were centering on Purdue and Nebraska. And I threw out a comment that said, which way was it? I think it was that Nebraska, they're running like crazy. And then Cris said, no, they're not. They're running like under 3 yards a carry and stuff like that. And so I pulled up another site because I designed my yards per carry based on box score analysis of sacks and kneel downs and punts. So mine's going to be off just a little bit. But if I'm showing 5 something and Cris is showing 2.9, something's going on. So Cris, what happened there?
Well, then I realized that I had actually transposed some inaccurate figures. So, and that was a lifesaver, because it absolutely not only got me off of the side I was on, it flipped the side I was on to the point where I have to buy back what I bet and then bet, that much more over it again. And that was extremely unusual. And I don't have any problem switching sides if the original side wins. I had Purdue initially. And I took Nebraska on the money line. So I do have 3 points to play with there on a created middle. But if Purdue wins, it's not going to bother me because I wasn't supposed to bet Purdue. So, then that led to something.
The story doesn't end. The story didn't end.
We started talking about what you had for the defensive data.
Yeah,
and I'm like, where are you coming up with this number? The number is this, and he's like, and he's like a full yard worse than I am, or what I'm saying, which is quite a lot. So, and then so what happened on your end? And then you found out the same situation as I was in, right?
I mean, it's just crazy. The same game. So Cris has a clerical error, and then I have a clerical error. because on that very same game, I'm saying, but they still have a rush disadvantage because Purdue's allowing this ungodly number. And Cris says, no, it's not an ungodly number. And I said, okay, well, I'll check my sheets. And I had written a number wrong that was 200 yards off.
Yeah.
Wow.
So in the course of a lot of carries, that was a full yard per carry. It still points to Nebraska, but it wasn't as pronounced as I had it. So it wasn't a flip for me, but it wasn't, wait a second, so we made mistakes on the same game, each one of us. And it was just fluky how we found out and how it was the exact same game.
Could be watching that game a little closer this week.
It's going to be fun. Yeah.
But the time taken to tell this story isn't to make people laugh or explain an oddity. It is an example of the value that we find in our process, because not only do I go over games with Ron, I go over games with other people. And this is part of the networking addition to process that I think is invaluable. If whatever you're doing and the viewers are doing as far as their handicapping process, I find it, and I'm sure Ron does, invaluable to just go through each and every game each week and just make a quick comment or two. And every now and then, well, every week, it brings attention to things that we didn't see on games. It talks us out of games. It reinforces games. And this is a perfect example of, it avoided self-destruction. So it's like
It created an extra homework assignment. And sometimes, because I don't study all 131 teams intently, so there are some games that Cris will bring up that I say, oh, I better check on. And as far as the network thing, there's something on Friday. Kyle Hunter, for those who are familiar with him, but you could find him on Twitter X at Kyle Hunter Picks. He runs a Spaces thing on tonight, actually Friday night. And there's 5 or 6 different speakers that offer their opinion. And if you listen to them, it helps. It's as if you're networking with them. Even if you don't know them, you're networking with them and you're getting other perspectives. And it may change your mind. It may not change your mind, but you're getting another opinion in the mix. It may, so it's a very interesting way of networking.
Ted, what do you think happens if Kyle Murray plays this week? I don't think he will, but he's available to play. He's not even on the injury report.
Are we talking about playing quarterback or video games?
I
Hey, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to play. I think he's back in practice. That doesn't mean he's ready to play. Look, Kyler Murray is not a giant difference maker at this time because he hasn't played in a long time. He's playing Baltimore. Good luck. I wish them well. I wouldn't touch the game either way, because to me it just looks like it's a one-sided game, and maybe he could make it close.
As somebody that has Baltimore interests on the money line or teasers,
yes,
I kind of would be probably happy if he played, just because he's not going to be a game speed.
Right.
The threat of running is basically not there, and I just feel like it would be a discombobulated mess.
Well, I sort of disagree with that, because I think if he plays, he's got to be able to run. I mean, that's who he is. So I can't imagine they would play him if he's not capable of doing close to what he normally does.
Arizona's next 2 opponents are Baltimore this week and Cleveland next week. If I'm Kyler Murray, I say, give me a little bit of time before I go back on the field.
Yeah, I'm grabbing my leg saying, I ain't ready.
Yeah.
Give me a call in 3 weeks.
Any other emergency topics? We have hit the 1 hour and 4 minute mark.
Next week, tell us what we have to look forward to so far.
Do I have to?
I don't know. Can you change them if they're not good?
I can't, but I can pretend. We have Washington at New England. I know everybody's been waiting for that one.
Oh, boy.
And it gets better, because in the afternoon, it's Indy at Carolina. So,
wow.
Are
we on bye next week? Did we get a bye
week?
I don't make these choices. I don't know how the heck this happened, But hey, hopefully Carolina loses this week, so we have a big thing to root for. They'll be 0-7 next week, so that'll be is Frank Reich's job on the line? I don't think so, but it's crazy what's going on over there. Really big disappointment. Obviously, with their new quarterback, they're just starting from scratch, and they're just going to take their lumps week to week. But you got to wonder, how long can they keep doing this?
Well, maybe you'll get some sound bites that we can chomp on, see what their locker room motivation is.
Yeah, well, it's going to be fascinating to see what they do this week, because that's going to tell you, is this team, are they in give up factor? They're playing the Houston Texans this week at home. They got a chance, right? They're only 3.5-point dogs of the last I saw the number.
Wouldn't we be rooting for the first 0-17 team? We've had winless teams, but we haven't had an 0-17, have we?
Oh, you're just saying that because the last time we did this, it was your team.
Lions.
Yes.
No, Cleveland came after the Lions, didn't they?
Not 0-16. Were they?
I think they won. I think they won one game.
Yeah. No, the Lions were I'll never forget why and how the Lions did it, because their quarterback was not Orlovsky, but it was Olovsky. That's how I always remember that.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody joining. Ron and I are going to be back on Tuesday at 12 Pacific, and then we will be back in a week at 12 noon Pacific also. So I hope everybody wins some money this weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Trick or treat.